Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit that subscribe button if you're new so you don't miss any of our great football content this season. All right, former NFL scout, you know him as John Middlekauff. His podcast is Three and Out. He is everywhere during the football season, and my Blazing Five is on a freaking heater, 4-0 today. I couldn't get a break in September. I'm getting every break. When Shedeur Sanders came in, I was like, wait. Cleveland leads 16-10. I've got the Browns plus 8.5. Just no pick sixes. And he actually had a nice final drive, little spin move, throwing the end zone. He did okay. It was really entertaining. So let's start. Denver 22, Kansas City 19. So the Broncos are now 9-2. The Chiefs are a 500 team. They're a hell of a 500 team. Kansas City's a good team. Bo Nix 24-37, 295. Again, no big mistakes. What's interesting, against Spags in that defense, John, Bo's really struggled. But for the first time in 9 weeks, they scored on their opening drive. And it was as if Bo and Sean found a rhythm, certainly on enough drives to get field goals that they hadn't had. But it was one of those games when you watch Sam Darnold unravel. And you watched a lot of quarterbacks today. There was some ugly quarterback play. This is where Bo Nix is really good. He doesn't take sacks. He can move the chains with his legs. He's really good in these big fourth quarter drives. I know he drives everybody nuts, but there is something to be said about today against Mahomes, milking that clock, making that big throw down the stretch. What's your interpretation of Nix and what you saw today?
Yeah, I mean, that final drive was huge, right? He hit 2 third downs, 3rd and 15 when he scrambled to his right. They need to get him on the move more often, I think. I mean, sometimes
Same.
they've really tried to push the ball down the field, and even today, a lot of his incompletions, because his numbers look good, are on the deep ball. He was not skipping balls like he did
Nope.
Thursday a week ago. It was that deep ball. He's still overthrowing it, but he's good on the move. And then the 3rd and 5 that Sutton made the play, and then that 2nd and 8, which essentially sealed the game. So 3 enormous passes. I actually thought when Kelce scored,
Same.
Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, I mean, you talk about these guys. I mean, you knew they would bring it. Both of them dominated today. I thought that second time that when Mims when returned that punt and they were in the red zone and they didn't come out of it with a touchdown, I'm like, I think they're going to look back and God, they're going to be kicking themselves on that one. And he found a way. I mean, their defense is both these defenses. I mean, these are that could be the AFC Championship game right there.
John, how about the late window? Cleveland's defense, Rams, Seattle, Denver, Kansas City, and Robert Saleh is doing an unfrickin' believable job with nobody. He's got, Winter's a good player. That kid's everywhere. But no, I kind of look at this game, and I think the Chiefs were 11-0 or 12-0 last year in one possession games, and they're 0-5. And my takeaway on that isn't that they were 11-0, not just that, but why are they in so many close games? And I think you see this with Buffalo. You start paying these quarterbacks $400 million, and John, you look at Buffalo's defense. It's really okay. It's just okay. It's got a couple splash players. You look at Kansas City. They don't have much of a run game. Kelce, again, rises to the moment. Chris Jones has not had a good year. He had a good day today. But I think it's the reality is when you start looking at the roster, Seattle, where they're paying Sam, very, very workable wage. Indianapolis, Daniel Jones. It's an unbelievable roster. So, some of it with Kansas City is this is the reality. Remember when Drew Brees was in New Orleans, he took a big salary and they dipped for 2 years. And then he took a team-friendly deal at the end, and they had great rosters with Sean Payton. How much credit do you give? Sean Payton's funny. I think he's the best coach in football. Nobody wants to admit it's a great coach because he can be a little bit of a smartass. But John, they're still paying Russell Wilson, and this roster is stacked.
Where I give them a lot of credit is, remember when they had that game his first year where they played Miami and gave up 70 points? And there was so much momentum, and you went, this Vance Joseph thing is just not going to work. And you look back a couple years later, they have a potential all-time defense. I mean, they might break the sacks record. The blitz he called, you just talked about defensive coordinators. I mean, the amount, if you combine the salaries of the defensive coordinators in the late window, I mean, it's a lot of money. These guys are getting paid. That blitz that he called that sacked Patrick Mahomes, I mean, that was That was big time. Sometimes you got to mix it up against an all-time great player and kind of confuse them. I mean, you're playing. I mean, the coach and quarterback combination, one of, if not the greatest combination of all time. So Vance Joseph to me deserves. They played the Chiefs really well now 2 years in a row, and they're missing their best defensive player. So obviously, Sean and he's been very, I would say, consistent on Bo Nix. He's kept his mouth shut when he's really struggled because he doesn't want this guy to go into the tank. And I think the team has just kind of, stood by his back because whatever, that Thursday night game was pretty ugly. I mean, that was as bad as it got. And today, you get a little extra time. I think Romo mentioned it, that they spend a lot of time just kind of getting back to the basics, like getting in and out of the huddle. I think sometimes you think it's like you get rushed. It's like getting in and out of the huddle. Bo Nix was saying, Coach, you're getting me the plays too late. And they worked on like stuff that you don't even think. But that's sometimes you got to take a step back before you worry about like what's up with his accuracy. Well, if he's all rattled and all this other shit, then you're already screwed before you even started.
That's what we saw with Caleb Williams in the first 3 weeks. His operational stuff was a mess. Now, it's still not pretty, but that's not the problem. He may struggle, but the operational stuff, I do think with Bo Nix, he's a really tightly wound guy. He's very intense. And so I think Sean was adding to that anxiety by getting it in late. And you and I had talked about this the last couple of weeks. He played nervous. And I think now we look at it and we're like, oh, that's why. Like, he's a tightly wound guy. He's incredibly hard on himself. I talked to somebody who knew him before the season. They're like, that kid is hard on himself. Like, a little like Lamar Jackson, just doesn't savor wins. Like, losses are crushing. And so, okay, then Sean's getting the plays in late. Sean's demanding. So early in the season, and Sean's never been a great September coach anyway because he just unloads the playbook on him. But I thought today, Bo, less frenetic. I thought that final drive was like, I mean, John, that was a little Jaden Daniels of last year. You're like, wow, that's a Pro Bowl level drive, like 2 big throws. And the way Sean and Bo milked the clock. I mean, even when Romo and Nance said at the end, they're like, hey, if the Chiefs don't make a tackle here, get down at the 1, and they didn't. Payton and Bo had thought it out. They just took a knee. They were not going to let Kansas City control it. They took a knee. And, I don't think Kansas City's a bad team. I just think the margins get really skinny when you pay Kelce, Jones, Mahomes. I mean, hell, they had to get rid of Joe Tooney. It's just, this is the reality of having a $400 million quarterback. Football season's here, and if you want to go to an NFL or college football game, Game Time is the place for you. The Game Time app just gives you the advantage back to you, the fans. It's a hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. I love it. Easy to use. The Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price, 100%. So they even let you preview your seat on the app. That's special. Plus fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay every time. Take the guesswork out of buying professional football tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app. Create an account. If you use the code Colin, COLIN, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code COLIN, $20 off, swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today.
The other thing is this. When you go to 5 Super Bowls in 6 years, and I think the year you missed it, you lost in the AFC Championship game, where are you drafting every round? 29, 30, 31, 32. And that's not just the first round. We're talking the third and the fourth round. So your margin for error, you're not getting the pick of the litter each round. Right? This isn't like the second round, you get to pick the 4 best players that are still on the board in the 30s or early 40s. You're picking at the end at 60. So the pressure on Veach and the scouting staff is really, really high. And I think that's why they were kind of hesitant to make a bold trade, because you need the picks. And especially, like, let's face it, Kelce and Chris Jones are coming down the home stretch here. Right. So these guys, they're no longer 17-game elite guy. They give you however many games during the regular season, hopefully the playoff games. Yeah. But like, you are going to need to make some hay in the draft. But even this year, let's say they end up going 10-7 because they got some winnable games on their schedule. Let's just say this is the year they get bounced in the first round. They're still, it's not like they're drafted 7th. They're still drafted 21st. So they are just, sometimes, the Ravens have had a good little stretch here of the Starks and the Wiggins, and they've hit there's a little dumb luck to that because a lot's out of your control. right? The guy you see this year with Jahad Campbell being there for Howie. Some years that guy goes pick 16. And you're just like, we don't really like any of these picks. It's why historically you get a lot of the good teams, John Schneider, Belichick, they would go back because we just don't feel comfortable here. And it's very draft dependent. I watch a lot of college football. I'm like, I don't know how many blue chippers are in this upcoming draft. Definitely not when a lot of these teams in the 20s are going to be drafted. So it just puts a lot of pressure. And the Chiefs I think Coach Reed and Patrick would be the first. They put themselves into a hole. You start 0-2, you lose that crazy Jags game. You shouldn't be like on tilt in the middle of November on the road at an 8-2 team, right? Well, the season shouldn't, and it's the season technically not on the line, but the division streak's over tonight. The Broncos essentially won the division tonight, Colin. They play the Commanders next, and then the Raiders.
Yeah, so I had picked Denver to win this division. I picked Kansas City to finish second, Chargers third, and Raiders fourth. So I've had a good year on picks, and a pretty good year. I picked New England to be my shocking team and Seattle to make the playoffs. So it's been a good football and pro football year for me. But one of the things I really believe about Kansas City is that when you look at the Chiefs, a lot of the reality of playing these big, intense seasons is there's a fatigue. It's more hits. You end up having, I guess just kind of the way I look at Kansas City's run is like how I looked at New England, is that before the season I said the dynasty's over. And I said they'll make the playoffs. They'll probably win another Super Bowl or two. But you just can't keep doing it. You can. The eye test tells you that defense 2 years ago was faster than now, and Chris Jones was more dominating. When you take Chris Jones out of his prime, and like Kelce, who'll give you great games, but not a great season, that defense isn't the same, John. It's like the Rams got lucky when Darnold left, or when Aaron Donald left, because they had drafted and hit on like 5 different defensive players in the box. So the defense, about a year after he left, are like, oh hell, it's still nasty. But they hit on 5 defensive picks. 5 of them were all, even the third round. Kobe Turner was good. But when Chris Jones the last 2 years, especially this year, isn't as dominant, the rest of the players are good players. And so they had to let go of Snead at corner, and they have a couple guys get dinged up. And when I watch them play today, it's still well coached. It's still good. But Seattle's defense, or the Rams defense today, just turn the sound down. The Rams defense is just, there's nothing open anywhere. There's stuff open today that Bo Nix and Payton took advantage of.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is in Belichick and Brady, in the middle of, or I guess the late 2000s, early 2010s, you got to start hitting on the new group of guys, right? They got Hightower, they got McCourty, right? They got all these other players to come in. Obviously, Edelman became a consistent slot. They hit on Gronk in the second round. The Chiefs are going to have to do that over the next couple of years. Yeah. And they kind of already have. Rashee Rice, a high-end player. Xavier Worthy, they're going to need more out of him. They got McDuffie and Karlaftis on defense. You need to hit on a couple more guys. But listen, I think they've proven they know what they're doing. This is just not Belichick and Brady had some years where they lost in the first round. Remember Rex Ryan beat them. The Ravens beat them. Payton got him a couple times. Like, you're not going to go to the Super Bowl. 5 and 6 years, I'd be stunned if that ever happens again. And not with the parity, the way the league's built. But the Broncos, they're going to be in a position, now they're in the driver's seat to get the number 1 seed. Right, because the Colts, are they just going to keep rattling off wins? I think the Broncos, you look at their schedule, it's pretty easy. I do believe if they can get home field advantage, that's going to be a very, very tough place to win, for opposing teams to come in with that defense. And they just need Bo Nix to play like today. No turnovers. We don't need 3-4 touchdowns a game. You go back to some of the defenses that, people like in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, we don't need 3 touchdowns. Just do not turn the ball over. Maybe throw 1. We'll rush for 1, and we will win this thing 17-13, no problem.
Don't forget, Denver at home in January. It will be snowing, so that defense will be even nastier because it's going to be windy at high altitude and snowing.